So what we're faced with here is a super shallow pond. It's a real small pond, maybe an acre or two. As you can see, it doesn't go very far that direction. Real small pond, public pond. It's almost all the same depth. There's like hardly any transition in depth. It's all relatively shallow. There's not much structure in the middle at all, maybe a few trees, but not much at all. So primarily the water stays dirty in here. There's a lot of carp in here, and so a lot of these fish will gravitate towards this shoreline structure. As you can see here, there's there's a pallet up here. There's over there's some brush. So they're going to gravitate towards the shoreline structure, and when they do that this time of the year, I really like to opt for a jig. Really any time of the year I like to opt for a jig. This is just a little 1/4 ounce jig with a gambler stinger on the back there. Really good option for shallow water bank fishing. 1/4 ounce is like my go-to when I'm flipping from the bank to shallow structure like this. So we're going to see if we can flip up a couple fish, see if we can get some on the board for you guys and show you some action. With this jig, it's a pretty simple approach. I'm going to walk the shoreline and I'm going to make short casts, precise casts to these pieces of structure, and I'm going to hop it. As you can see, I'm kind of letting it sink to the bottom, and then I'm just going to pop it a couple times, and I'm going to hop it along, and I'm going to more or less try to get a reaction strike out of these bass. So it's a lot of casting, but a lot of short casting. So that's sort of the approach that I use. Sometimes they want it slow, but a lot of the times, especially fish oriented to tight cover like this, they're ambushing predator or prey that comes by. So a more aggressive retrieve like this is usually pretty effective. Another key thing when I'm flipping shallow structure like this on a small pond like this, I want to focus on making quiet casts. Quiet presentations is really crucial. A lot of times, like I said, those fish are sitting there up against the structure, but it's not real deep water. It's only a foot, maybe 2 feet at the most around a lot of this structure. So these fish, if you plop a bait in there really loud, they're going to get, at least a little bit skittish. The idea behind making a quiet presentation is you're trying to get that bait in there without them even knowing that it's in there. You kind of just want it to take them off guard and surprise them. So you want to get a cast up in there to where it's like, just enough, presentation to where it might trigger their instinct to kind of go over to it. But really, what's going to draw them into it is the action off the stinger on the trailer, and then the skirt is going to flare out, and just the dark, like I said, dirty water, the dark presentation is going to draw their attention. Clear water, you're going to throw more natural stuff, but quiet presentation is extremely, extremely key. You'll notice a lot of my casting is really, really precise and really, really quiet. There you go. There you go. It's a little guy, but the idea is there. So what I did there, this is actually a little creek that flows into this pond. It's crazy because if you look over here, I don't know if you guys can tell, but this is so unbelievably shallow right here, because this is where all the water washes out. When it comes, this is where it comes into the pond. So I don't even know if these bass they might be able to get in and out of the pond, but if not, this fish is just living in this little section of creek right here. I know there's a lot of traffic going by. I'm right by the road, but I just flipped it up against this little brush pile right here, just kind of hopping it along, and my line started swimming off, and we got this nice little guy, healthy little bass, half pounder. Just because he's small, he still went after that pretty big jig, but sweet, we'll get him back and see if we can get another one. Another extremely key detail that I didn't really mention yet when you're doing this is being very stealthy on the shoreline as well. Not just with your casting, but with your body. When you walk up to a spot like this, you don't want to come trudging up to it. Because like I said, these fish are sitting so close to the bank and they're so shallow that if you come pouncing up in here, making a bunch of noise, you're going to scare those fish before you can even get a bait in the water. So it's really key to be quiet when you approach the spot, as well as when you make your casts. Oh Oh my God, there he goes down the hill. Oh, did he make it? Oh, he's still sitting down there. Maybe I gotta go save him. Oh, is he gonna make it? He's flopping. Oh, there he goes. He got it. He got it. That was ridiculous. Same deal, a little piece of structure up here, little brush pile-y deal, and he was sitting right up on the bank up in it. Just ripping them out today. Come here, bud. Little guys. Same deal though. I mean, that's not a big fish, but the idea is there. Little hole in the grass there up against the bank. Flipped it in there, hopped it a few times. My line started swimming off underneath it, so he was waiting for something to swim by. There's a bunch of gar mixed in up here shallow too, and they'll kind of hit this jig, but you know when it's a bass. I mean, they get it. Obviously that's not the size we're looking for, but the same idea. And yep, still flipping the jig, still getting it done on the jig. So see if we can get another bigger one. There we go. There we go. There we go. A little bit better one. Not a terrible fish. Heck yeah. Little pound and a quarter, maybe. Yeah, pound and a quarter. What's going on with his tail? Huh. What is that? That's weird. Not a bad fish. On the jig again. That one wanted it a little slower. This brush pile right here looked so good, and I just hopped it slower on the outside, kind of the point. So as you can see, I started here, I flipped my way down, and I hit the point, and that fish was sitting right on the point of that brush, waiting to ambush something that swam by, and he thought my jig was a little bluegill or something. Sweet, we'll get him back. Not a bad fish. Right on. But yeah, same deal, 1/4 ounce black and blue jig. Got the stinger on there, a little bit smaller stinger. Actually, you know what? His leg's about to fall off. He'll be okay for one more fish. But the combination that I'm actually using a 7-foot 2-inch heavy action Phenix M1. This is a great rod for up close pitching. It's got enough backbone where you can move a big fish out of structure, but it's got a soft enough tip that you can flip it into or pitch it into small little spaces real easily. Another good thing that this rod is another good thing this rod can be used for is skipping. Right now I'm not faced with much stuff where I need to skip. It's more pitching, but if you need to skip, this is a killer rod. The 7-foot 2 heavy M1. Got that paired up with an 8:1-to-1 gear ratio Shimano Bantam, and I believe this is 18-pound Sunline fluoro on there. Good combo for up close structure. It's been working so far. We got 4 on it now, one decent one, and we're gonna flip our way down. We got about another, I don't know, 60-70 yards of bank right here. We got a lot more brush to flip. We're gonna see if we can keep flipping this thing into some fish's mouths. So keep watching, guys, and hopefully we get some more good content for you. Hopefully you're learning something so far. On this bank, I need to tell myself to kind of make my hops a little bit more subtle. Try to keep it in place a little longer. You know, you just play with your retrieves as you kind of go. I mean, the fish will kind of key you in on it. You know, that I think I've had one bite on the fall when it initially went in there. I've had one on the hard hop of the jig, and then that bigger one that I just caught ate it kind of just on a soft little, almost a shake, not even necessarily a hop. I guess it was a slight hop, but it wasn't like what I was doing earlier. Another thing you got to be careful with, this is a pretty soft brush guard on this jig. I like it for when I'm bank fishing, but I'm not a big fan of it in a boat. For flipping, it snags up a lot if you use it like this, but for bank fishing, you're pretty much on top of all the structure you're fishing, so you don't really have too many issues. One thing that I do like about it is that it forces you to kind of slow down, because if you pull it too hard in the structure, it'll hang up. So having to slow down, like, you know, not yanking it through the structure too aggressively, I think it gets more bites most of the time. Sometimes they want that real aggressive hop, but a lot of the times they want that subtle kind of just natural little like undulating motion through the brush. So, you know, this, oh, I just had something swirl on it. It must have been looked like a gar. I'll flip back in there just in case, but that softer undulation is good, and I think having a jig like this that, you know, it typically will hang up like there. I just bumped into that and it hung up, but this is the Missile Baits mini flip. No secret here, this is a good jig. It's a little bit finessier. It's got a little bit, you know, lighter wire hook, softer weed guard, but I really like this jig. It's got a little bit finer skirt on it. Just a good overall jig. I like it a lot for bank fishing. I've caught a lot of big fish on it off the bank. But like I said, you know, just play around with your retrieves, and the fish will kind of let you know what they want. You know, they'll either tell you, hey, you know, I want it when it's sinking. Like a lot of times in the spring when you're flipping stuff like this, you'll flip it up in there and they'll hit it like 90% of the time when it's sinking to the bottom. You know, you'll flip into a little hole like where I just did just then, and all of a sudden you'll go to pick up on your line, swimming to the left or swimming to the right. You know, that's a really common springtime bite. You know, this time of the year, a lot of the times you'll hop it or you'll flip it in there and you'll be shaking it, and all of a sudden you'll feel a thunk, or you'll just kind of pick it up and it'll be heavy, you know, and so that's, you know, that lighter, that slower fall is key to kind of give those fish time to hone in on it, especially in shallow water. You know, I mean, you can really get away with a heavier jig if you're flipping docks and deeper water, or maybe if you're fishing deeper trees, but on a small shallow body of water like this, I mean, you can get away with this 1/4 ounce. You don't need to go crazy. You don't need to throw a super heavy jig. Oh no, we hung our jig up. Let's see if we can get it back without breaking off our... I gotta walk all the way to the truck if I break this thing off. We're gonna get it off. I'll show you a little trick here, guys. Throw my rod at it and see if it'll work. Nope. Got it. Don't do that at home. It's a good way to break your guides. But yeah, so 1/4 ounce jig, Gambler Stinger, really good trailer for a light jig. It kind of more or less glides, and when you pull it, it has some action because of those flanges on the legs. But it's overall really good trailer for a light jig like this around structure. So right out of the package, the Stinger comes with the little legs attached. Make sure you pop these apart. I usually just use my fingernail and kind of cut it on either side. And then it doesn't really matter. This is, oh, by the way, this color is called Backatya. It's a really, really good color. It's got like purple flake in here with a little black and blue swirl. Matches up really nice on a dark colored jig. And then as far as rigging it goes, I mean, you can chop off some of it and like, you know, slim it down, but I like to just rig the entire thing on there, thread it on there, and come out the back. And you got yourself a nice jig profile. But that Stinger is just a killer option on the jig. Like I said, kind of slows the fall down a little bit, has a nice gliding action, and that's all I've been putting on there. Just super simple.